Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank everyone here. It's a blessing, honestly, to come to such a place with such beautiful people. I have to say that, okay? Well, I don't have to say, I'm saying. So I wanted to sound a bit professional, so I have a 25 pence book, Sigmund Freud, and this is how he introduced his first lecture. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with novel and bewildering feelings that I find myself in Rotterdam, talking before an audience of expectant inquirers. No doubt I owe this honor only to the fact that my name is linked with the topic of biosemiotics and also biorhetorics, which no one's ever heard of. And I intend to speak of blah, 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 blah. Now, so that sounded really professional. My talk today is about the seagull. I wish in a sort of Monty Python way I could sort of pick up a seagull and say, that's a seagull. Right, so this morning, as I came down an Easy Hotel, I spoke to the receptionist. He was so surprised I was talking to him. And I said, do you have a seagull experience? And he did. He said, yes, there was a seagull dragging a dead rat along there, and I filmed it. And I said to him, I'm going to use that in my paper, which I have. Now, in this discussion, I want to talk about the herring gull. And the reason for that is because I've always liked Nico Tinbergen, and he was one of the fathers of ethology with Carl von Frisch. I was connected with the language of bees, and then also Konrad Lorenz. The three of them together I believe they got a Nobel Prize together. And at that time, a bit later, you had in the 70s, you had this wonderful period when suddenly dolphins became geniuses and chimpanzees were great. These are all the sexy animals you're going to be talking about. But I'm talking about a seagull, a herring gull, which in terms of language ability is nowhere. You know, you start over here. We got the human being, but not Donald Trump. He's down there. The human being is here. And then we got the chimpanzee and maybe the whales and the dolphins. And we go down here and we got the parrot. Where the hell is the seagull? Down there. So what I wanted to talk about first is my experience with a cockatoo. Now, do you know what a cockatoo is like a kind of parrot? And my friend, I didn't know this. I went into her place and I thought it was going to be quite romantic evening. We had a video, Crouching Tiger. I've never seen it before. And I heard this sound. What the hell is that? And it was scratching and everything. And then I opened the door and there was this cockatoo called Sydney. So I was introduced to Sydney. Now, and she said, Caroline said, Sydney, naughty boy. So what happened after that is that we got into the kitchen and Sydney flew into the cupboard. And while we were preparing for the pasta, Sydney started chucking all the pasta down onto the counter. I thought, oh my God. So this was not going to be very good. So we get to the video, because in those days it was a video. And I'm sat down there, I think, oh, this is going to be pretty cool. Sydney then suddenly flies over to me and lands on my lap. This bloody big bird is on my lap, and I don't know what to do with it. So he opens his wings like this, right, that, and his tongue is coming out in a kind of sexual way. And I think, oh my God, what's happening? And I start to stroke him a bit, and his tongue's coming out more. I thought, oh, I want to watch the video. So then I do this, go away, like that, push him, and he flies. And he does like this, the First World War sort of fighter bomber or whatever, lands on my shoulder and bites me in the ear. And bloody Sydney's got all my blood over him. And that was my first contact with one of these birds which scores very high in language ability. Now, actually, if you go through what happens with this what Sydney did was something which Sydney would do in the wild, which involves bonding. He was bonding with Caroline, but not with me. And then he was attention seeking. And then the biting on the earlobe is part of grooming. I don't want to be groomed again. So now we have the pigeon, the cockatoo, which is like a parrot and everything, and then we have the seagull. Now, what I wanted to do here, and this is a trust exercise. I hope you trust me for 1 minute, right? So we're bringing it to the discussion of biosemiotics, the Umwelten, right? What I want you to do, if you can bear with me, and I have to find it, is to close your eyes, right? It doesn't involve any knives or anything. Just close your eyes for 1 minute, and I want you to imagine what I'm going to describe, okay? Are you ready? Now, right? I have to find it on the phone now. Wait, bear with me. Houston, we have problems. Let's have a look. Okay. You are now flying, cruising at around about 20 miles per hour. It's a bit windy, and the waves are slapping on the shore, and you can hear other gulls going, caw, 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 all over the place, loads of them. And then you hear the waves, and then you hear the noises of other birds and everything. And there's a lot of commotion. And what are you? You can wake up now. Now, what do you want? Food. Food. So what kind of food are you going to go for? This is where I don't agree with the idea of having a desert of no information. I believe that there is a sea of signification, okay? This is very important in the way that I look at it. My late dad, and also my biological dad was in Vietnam. He was a radar expert, and so was my dad. My mum liked people who were radar experts. But the point was that they both believed that you should have something tangible. And so in the way that I look at it in terms of biosemiotics and everything, I've looked at a parsimonious way with theory. I'm not a person who's going to start to go on the mountaintop or dance in the ballroom or whatever. So in this sea of signification, you're looking for food, right? Now, with Nico Tinbergen, when he started off his work with seagulls, which was part of the ethology, he was looking and he was doing experiments on what, first of all, he came up with this idea, which I like this to remember. This is very easy because I'm drinking a lot of coffee. So we start off with coffee, causation, ontogeny, function, evolution. Those are the 4 questions which Nico Tinbergen asked, and you can remember that. Coffee, right? Okay, good. So he would do these experiments to find out what released particular behaviors, and in the work and everything, he would look at what stimulated the birds and everything, and he would make these models. I loved it, different models and everything, and then because of the fact that the models released particular behaviors, he believed it was all innate, that it was like we have like robot seagulls to a certain extent. He didn't believe that, but there is an element of that. It's a script, right? And for example, with the grey lag goose, with the egg rolling, if you changed things with the egg, the goose would continue its repertoire, even though something had been changed. It just did it because it was automatic. Now, let's get back to the seagull. You are now flying, and you are looking for food. But the first thing which is very interesting about this coastal Umwelt is it's noisy. The wild Umwelt is as noisy as hell. There's all of this things going on. You got to watch out for the predator. You got to look for the prey. You got to check your chick. Now, by the way, a herring gull egg is a bit. It's 3 ounces. I don't know, and it's bigger than a chicken egg. But if you were on the cliff, you've got to make sure that when whoever's incubating, they know that you're going to hatch. So communication with a chick in this noisy environment is localized, and you have the beep, beep, beep sound. So that's why if you go into a supermarket and there's a quail egg, which it seems a bit warm, put it to your ear and you can hear beep, 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 and you can incubate it like someone did called a chick called Albert. Now, with this concept of the umwelt, is that you have all of this behaviors and everything connected with a particular environment. Now, when I lived in Northumberland, I used to go fishing with my dad, and there used to be cod everywhere. And the birds were seagulls, herring gulls. They eat almost everything. They even eat the eyes of baby seals, right? And they find them very succulent. These kind of behaviors, people hate this, but they are opportunists. They are not very good at diving under the water. They always look for an opportunity. And this is one of the traits of a herring gull, is that it's opportunistic, which is a very good skill, by the way. Now, when we look at if we compare the wild umwelt with the urban situation, this is where it's interesting, because then we start to move away from the what would you call it? The ethological sort of Nico Tinbergen way of looking at innate learning. We move to what Patrick Bateson talked about, plasticity in terms of adaptation. This is the most interesting area of the herring gull, because when it moves into a novel environment, there is another field of signification, a novel one, which is, and I have experienced that because it's a bit like trading places. For 3 years, I was homeless, okay? I was homeless in Italy, and I had to survive in an alien environment. And I managed to do that by adapting to the rules, to the different signs, and to the cues, and the codes and the rules. And that's exactly what a herring gull does. It's been forced into a situation of where it's moved from its the usual habitat into the urban environment. And by the way, I am very fond of Charles Darwin's, and the reason for that is Charles Darwin's daughter, Annie Darwin. She is buried to a place where I grew up. She's buried in Malvern in the Priory, and every kind of month or something, I visit the grave, and I think it's nice to have that kind of contact. But in Malvern, in around about the same time as Annie Darwin died, there was a rare sighting. And the rare sighting was a herring gull. He wrote it down. I have seen a herring gull. Now, if you go to Malvern, there's millions of them. Millions, they're all over the place. And then people get the wrong idea about this, and this is to do with the fact that the way that we record things and everything is that the birds actually are red listed. The herring gulls population has gone down, but we think there's loads because when we are trying to sleep, then we hear in the morning, right? Okay. Now, I wanted to talk about in terms of a few years ago, I had this idea of having. I had a friend, a Polish friend, and we were going to do a real player platform to live stream animal behaviors and to analyze it. And the project was sent to the American Behavior Society. The president liked it and everything, but I didn't get funding for that. The other thing which I did was cat chattering. Anyone got cats? Cats, yes. You know, yes, right. So the cats chatter in a kind of mimicking of a bird. And what my idea was to do, and this is what I wanted to do with the seagulls, with the herring gulls, is to use the videos on YouTube and to analyze them. And there is such a huge database. And what I like about that database is that there's the element of community. If you want to broadcast biosemiotics to a greater group, why not have a project like that, where you have a particular goals in mind, you have a protocols, and you have participation from people who've never heard of biosemiotics, including Alexa. And so that was one of the ideas. But in this other idea, which I had in terms of this particular thing, we're talking about the urban behavior of the herring gull. What I found fascinating was that it's in its adaptation to its environment, there is an element of neoteny. Neoteny is like the babification, right? The babification, like, you know, you have the wolf, Clever will know this, the wolf, to the dog, to the puppy, from the wild cat to the kitten. And all of these sounds have something in common. And what they have in common is that they're in the same kind of range, right? So the herring gull has started to mimic and become in the range of, it is known in Danish as the sea cat, and with no surprise, it has started to mimic the behaviors of a cat in order to get a reward. Can we have a look at that video, if we may? Yep, okay, so if you can do that. Right, you ready? Yeah, okay, yeah, start. Oh, right. Okay. So this is actually in Turkey, and this is I think it's in Turkey, and it's these food machines are for stray cats, right? And the idea is the stray cat goes to this vending machine and he goes meow meow and he gets food. Oh, sorry. Okay, where is it? Switch up. Okay, sorry. All right. Sorry, but that was a moment of entertainment for you. By the way, if you want to know the difference between a male herring gull and a female gull, the head. Males have bigger heads. So I didn't know that, but that's true. Now, in terms of the urban environment, because they have adapted so well to to their environment that they seem to have they're moving closer to some kind of co-evolutionary thing, but this will not happen. You know, like, for example, Alfred Wallace Russell talked about biogeography. Charles Darwin talked about the Galapagos Islands and the finches, and isolation, you ended up with speciation. But with sparrows and some birds, we have dialects from, say, just like in England, where you have people say, you know, oh, why stop hoying the claimers at the lasses and so forth. You have dialects in sparrows. Now, what is interesting, I wanted to find out if there is a development of a dialect in gulls from the land gulls and the coastal gulls. It would take about 5,000 years for complete, if they were isolated, for complete speciation to take place. So you will have these land gulls will be unable to have reproduce successfully with the coastal ones. Now, what has all of this got to do with biosemiotics? Well, first of all, is that in all of these situations, these gulls use a range of communication, and here they're using the meow, which is a kind of begging call, and this is actually an example of neoteny, because this begging is done by the adults. This is the sound of juveniles, and these birds are actually using it in a way to mimic the cat, but they also use it with humans. How many people have been in a situation, they've been walking along, and a seagull's come up to them? Anyone? Right, okay. Anyone been attacked by a seagull? Oh, yeah, right. You'll be pleased to know that when the herring gull is coming to you, it can swoop at 45 miles per hour. So please duck. If you will have major, I actually know of someone who had a seagull injury. And what's so funny, in Britain, this is what happened. The seagull hit her on the head, right? And she was bleeding like this. And they're all running to the seagull because it had broken its wing, right? So what about, does anyone have any issues with rubbish, with seagulls? No, with the rubbish? You know, with the garbage? Yes, yes. In Britain, this is very common. So this is also, these birds have adapted to this environment. Why? Because it's not noisy. Despite the fact you think it is from the coastal period with, you know, the waves and everything, the field of signification has changed to one where it's easier for the seagull, for the herring gull, to actually manage the situation. And also it's good because you get food if you meow. Yeah, meow, meow. So the other point to do with this is I talked about Sydney at the beginning, right? Now it's my theory that we don't know the true intelligence of these birds because there is a focus affordance deficit, right? Because in the case of Sydney, he spends a lot of time with the humans, and then we have time to be able to interact and understand everything which is going on. 5 minutes, okay, sorry. I hope you're enjoying this because usually I do theater. So I think that focus affordance is very important when we study animals, and this whole sexiness about whales, chimpanzees, is there is overfunding in these areas, forgetting all of these other animals. I think it's fantastic for biosemiotics and zoosemiotics that we are blessed with so many animals, that we can do so much research. I know that you want to walk in the wilderness with Charles Peirce on the mountain. I'm down on the beach, but also, by the way, when it comes to meaning, have you noticed that I have not used the word meaning? I think that meaning is meaningless. I wrote 16 pages for the Semiotic magazine on the whole idea of meaning in terms of game theory and playing a game. Like if you're a plumber, electrician, or a builder, and all three of you have different sense of, you make a different sense of the world, and you apply different meanings and everything, and you agree on the fact that there is a possibility of meaning, right? But I prefer, when I'm discussing animals, where I don't think there is any meaning, I like the idea of signification because it's closer to science. And by the way, stimulus, signals, codes, cues, etc. So on this level, because I believe in levels of biological organization and levels of biological explanation, I don't think, I have a parsimonious way, which is, Chris will hate me for this because I do like Occam's razor and I like Lloyd's Morgan, because I think that you cannot use a level of explanation which is which doesn't go with the level of biological organization. Okay. Well, I'll end it there. Okay. Thank you very much.
We have time for.
Oh, okay. I hope there's no questions. I need a coffee. No, yes, of course.
The seagulls are colonized Venice right now.
Oh, colonizing Venice. Okay. All right. Yes, I can. Yeah. Well, I'm an advocate for them. I'm their lawyer. Yes. Any questions? No, that's good. Oh, you need your the next one's coming. Who's the next person coming? Yeah. No, so yes, 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 right, yes, right, yes, 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 no, right. The interaction, yeah. Yes, that's true. Yes. Okay. Well, okay. I'm glad that I survived this. I did do theater once, and I was a bit worried because I don't drink anymore, and I was in a play. Thank you very much, Yogi. And so if I had a lot of drink, I would be I would be terrible. But I was in a play called The Ideal Husband, which I never was in life, and I had three lines, right? The three lines were as follows. Lady Chantry has just come in from riding. She's in the library, right? So what did I say? I'm up there, so nervous and everything. I say, Lady Chantry has just come in from riding. He's in the library. One pronoun. And the whole of Malvern Theatre, 300 people started laughing. And so I thought, oh my God, because I have to do it the next day. So the director says, Stephen, you're a bit nervous. I'll have a drink. So I had three whiskeys for three lines. And after I delivered it, she said, perfect, perfect. And I knew then I couldn't be an actor. Thank you.